Hi, in today's video we're going to cover the installation of the front coil springs into a C2 chassis. The coil springs have a lot of energy, and most commercial coil spring tools clamp on the outside of the spring, and it'll have the tendency to mark the spring, and when you're doing a restoration you really don't want that, and it's really clunky to get around it. But if you can use a piece of threaded rod and make an adapter block on the bottom and screw up through the bottom of the A-arm where the shock usually resides, and you can actually use that as a coil spring compressor. It works pretty well, and we're going to go through this step, so follow along. Thanks. Here is the lower A-arm with a spindle attached and everything, and what you can see is what we have is a block that we've made that'll bolt up to where the lower shock absorber bolts into when we threaded it, and we got a piece of threaded rod here, and then we have the spring over there, and then the upper A-arm is installed. So what we'll do is we'll put the coil spring onto this, get it put up in place, and we'll just start threading a nut onto the top that'll compress this up until you can get the bolts in the lower section there. What I like to do is on the nut itself is put a little bit of grease between that and the washers, and that just reduces the coefficient of friction and just makes it spin a little bit easier. So the first thing we'll do is put the spring in, and we'll set it down into the pocket where it resides. Make sure the tang is located where it needs to go, and then we'll just set that up into place. Once you get the weight on, then you can kind of get it up as much as you can. Let the nut down. There you can see it's kind of in position now. So now what you want to do is just make sure the spring's in the pocket. You can use your knee to force it up a little more. Make sure it's kind of seated. Look underneath. Make sure it's seated in the pocket the way it needs to be on both ends. And just take your wrench. And just keep working your way up the compressor. When you start to get close, you're going to need to check and make sure that you don't tighten it too much, and the top of the spindle engages with the shaft for the upper ball joint. But we're a ways away from there, but if you had a ratchet wrench or something, it would work a little bit quicker, but This is an 1 1/16 nut on here to fit the threaded rod, and I don't have anything like that. But still, it goes pretty darn quick. And it's pretty effortlessly to spin this with the grease onto the faces of the nut and the washers. Alright, and we just do a quick look and see where we're at. Looks good. We still got this far to go, the compressor spring, until we're up where we need to be. And what's nice is with the rod going through the center of the spring, there's no chance of the spring popping out and flying out. It pretty much captivates it. So we're getting there. We're making great progress. You just hold on to the assembly so it doesn't torque and spin around. I'm only doing like a quarter of a turn because you don't want to keep hitting the A-frame. You know, it's all painted and we really don't want to damage it. So taking a little bit of time here will pay off, so you're not nicking and damaging your finish on your parts. Okay. We're going to make sure that we're kind of located in the pocket too as we get closer to the A-arm in place. Almost there. Okay, we'll just go a little bit more. Okay, the bolts are now installed where the lower A-arm meets the frame. This one's hanging up a little bit. One's threaded in there. You just keep going down, up. Okay, so we're now engaged into the ball stud. Okay, so we can now put the castellated nut onto this, onto the bottom of the ball joint stud. We can torque the A-arm bolts, the lower A-arm bolts, and then when we're done with that, we can loosen up on this, and we're all set. Okay, so it's all installed now. As you can see, we've got the tie rod end in, and everything's tightened up. And here's a picture of the ride. But the biggest thing is the detail is the block in the bottom. What there is there's a couple of slots or some bolts, and I put protective tape on it to protect the bottom of the A-arm finish or whatever, so it does not dig in. If you want a parts list and a detail of this drawing, if you'd like to make one, contact me and I can send that to you. The other side is the same. The more you do it, the easier it gets. But thanks for watching.